Well. It seems the new commander has released, right as the final UC match was about to take place. Regardless, the main thing to come of this is his Commander Awakening skill writing has been cleared up, and today we will be going through his kit, Awakening skill, and quickly touch on his real-time strategy kit and just how impactful this new commander is for the bleed lineups. So let's begin. Firstly, his stats, giving infantry health and total attack. But the eye-catching stat will be his counter damage increase against cavalry, up to 24% at max level. Not only will this stat alone increase your infantry v cavalry attack by 48% overall, including damage effects and skills from your lineup, but Vorian also brings a whole new power for his lineup, where Sarara brought area of attack to the weakness lineup, something which never was related to weakness. Vorian brings a reflect damage effect for the bleed lineup. A good segue to Vorian's Awakening skill, which has three main parts to it. The most simple out of all is the 40% increased crit chance for his lineup. Next, every 3 attacks, Vorian will trigger a bleed effect on the enemy line for 180% damage over 5 ticks. And lastly, for every critical attack your troops trigger, gains a reflect shield which will reflect 50% of the damage they take back to the enemy. Intending to replace Rhea out of top lineups, the damage difference is so extreme it's nearly unfair to compare them. Focusing on his Awakening, to start he will require either John or Rhea to trigger critical attacks for his shield for all infantry lineups. Talking about his reflect now, it is always going to be dependent on how much damage the opponent does to your line, which will scale based on counter effects too against you. The greater the effect is, the higher damage your line takes, stacking up to 5 times for instances where multiple crits can be triggered if you are using both Rhea and John. It is possible to get up to 100% uptime with both of these commanders for 1 or 2 of your lines, assuming you're lucky enough with your crit chances, which is easier with Vorian's line, which will have a 65% chance to trigger critical attacks with a maxed out John with weapon. The most obvious synergy with Vorian that isn't John will be Sinara, and without a doubt it is a combo alright. Alone Vorian triggers a 180% bleed effect every 3 attacks. From base of 200 attacks to max level Sinara is 200 normal attacks all the way up to 500 normal attacks, bringing bleeds from 67, which we will bring down to 65 of effective damage, all the way up to 167 bleeds, simplifying to 165 bleeds of 180% damage. You want to take a guess over a whole battle how much damage this will deal? Do you want to guess how much damage this will deal? If you said a lot, you're damn right, a lot. A lot of 29,700% worth of damage. Just comparing this to Darren, both at base level with no weapon, he at max can deal 18,000% damage at the best case scenario, with hitting lines inflicted with bleed and hitting all 4 troop types throughout the battle. With his max level weapon, this will jump up to 25,200%. A damn maxed out Darren will never absolutely get these damage numbers and ain't even coming close to Vorian at base level pre-weapon state, and only the half of his power. And now the other half of his power, a reflect which will trigger off every critical attack done by the lineup, reflecting 50% of the damage they take from the next attack dealt to them, which can stack up to 5 times. This naturally scales off how powerful your opponent is. Hence, a very strong Cav player dealing massive damage will take a large amount of damage back. Funny enough, the best counter to this would be Vorian himself, or more specifically another bleed lineup, as their additional attacks at lower attacking power won't reflect nearly as much damage back to self. Having a look into his real-time strategy kit, and it is quite interesting. Much like Sarara for the crit spearman lineup replacing Jamie, Vorian will replace Sinara out of top infantry lineups. His block is half of Sinara's value, and for his active he will provide 1,200% infantry health and attack instead of the 1,800% attack Sinara provides. But the main thing Vorian gives is his new bleed effect, which has a 20% chance to trigger for every normal attack, inflicting 360 damage coefficient lasting for 3 seconds. While the 10% reduced block damage may seem bad, for top-level bleed lineups the goal is to have hordes of enemy armies attack you to maximize Darren's damage boost per blocked attack, skyrocketing your damage, and the addition of a bleed effect on the commander adding more damage per second for your line, and assuming you are getting attacked by multiple opponents, multiple bleeds will trigger consistently, draining your opponent's troops as the fight continues. The introduction of this commander had no doubt shaken up the meta. much like when Sararar was first released. Now the meta shifting back to bleed lineups as no real hard counter has yet been released. And despite it being announced and available right before the UC final commenced, had been controversial in the few hours leading up to the match. Overall, this new commander will dominate in any bleed lineup, replacing one of the core commanders and bringing more the combo tag into the bleed lineup using crits to trigger reflex and inflicting his own bleeding effect onto the enemy. As of right now, he was only available through wheel spins and may take some time to release in packs or other sources given Sararar has also yet been released here too. We will just have to see how some may combat this new dominant commander until the female counterpart is released. Thanks for watching.